Welcome to Bosses with Baggage. I'm Sherry Sutton, your host and business growth guide. Around here, we believe that failures are our superpowers. So in this podcast, we'll explore the many ways that setbacks can mold, shape, and change your life and your business and ensure that you come out of the fire better than before. Through interviews with business leaders and discussions of my own personal struggles, we'll unlock the secrets to turning setbacks and low moments into opportunities to thrive. From approaching your business with a servant's heart to getting comfortable with being the face of your brand, each episode will be a safe, judgment-free zone to reframe the concept of failure with honesty, empathy, grace, and a whole lot of laughter. So are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to Bosses with Baggage. My name is Sherry Sutton, and I am your marketing mentor, and I'm here today with the amazing Jennifer. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Sherry.
Oh my gosh, I'm
exciting.
so thrilled to have you here. I've been stalking your Instagram and was loving all of your stuff, and so super excited to chat today. So tell me where you're coming from.
I am calling in from Switzerland today, where I was born and raised. So not really a surprise, but yes, Switzerland, and smack in the middle of Europe for everyone who doesn't know.
I love that. Have you lived there your whole life?
I did my master's. I got my master's degree from the University College Cork in Ireland. So I lived in Cork for during the duration of my studies. So that was yeah. And apart from that, it has been Switzerland. Family close by. So that's nice.
I love Switzerland. It's gorgeous.
Ooh, you've been?
Yes. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. It has some nice spots, all right.
Yeah, for sure. One of my favorite things in your bio is you said, I swear with emphasis in multiple languages.
Yes. And it's really confusing my son. He's 4 years old now. And so he's always like, Mommy, what language was that now? And I'm like, oh, yes. No, it's not German. So, yeah, it was not English. I mean, there's just so many great curse words in other languages too.
Yeah.
And I'm mindful of not cursing too much in a language. I don't know, let's say I'm going to Egypt and the only thing I could speak were Arabic curse words. I probably wouldn't just hammer them out all the time. But I don't know. There's just something about it.
I get that. I think that that's a skill set that I admire and I'm a little jealous of. My son's school is 75% Indian, so most of his friends speak Telugu, and so he's learning all the swear words, and so he'll say that he'll swear in Telugu, and I'll be like, "What?" He's like, "Well, you can get. You probably get away with it at school, so okay,
that's true.
Sure,
yeah,
whatever."
Yeah, and then again, in German. Particularly in German, you can turn any language into a curse word just by the way of how you pronounce and speak it and your volume. So it's kind of it kind of works.
I love it. All right, we're gonna do a whole separate podcast someday.
Is this a curse-free podcast or not?
It is not a curse-free. Okay. So feel free to curse in every language you know. And we're going to do a whole separate podcast, my friends, on how to curse in all the languages. We'll have Jennifer teach us. So,
oh, dear Lord.
But our goal for this podcast today is we want to talk a little bit about your sort of dark night of the soul, how it transformed you, how it changed the way you show up in your business, in your life. We believe here at Bosses with Baggage that our biggest challenges become our greatest superpowers. And only by going through those things can we show up as our authentic selves in our lives and in our business. Yeah. And so I'm so excited to hear a little bit more about your story. You've told me a little bit about it, but want to hear a little bit more from you. So tell us what it was like. Tell us about your dark night of the soul.
Oh, geez. I thought many times where to start to which strain of yarn to pick and then be like rolling it up. And I think there was kind of like a prelude to the dark night of the soul I mainly want to talk about. And the prelude was right after I graduated from university and I had my first job. I burned out bad. It was it was a combination of all the things. High workload, really not a healthy work environment, like all the things. And it took me like, I don't know, I've realized way too late that no, this is not really good. And so that prelude kind of like helped me then and my dark night of the soul period to be like, oh, wait a minute, I recognize patterns. So and then I did some work and I felt like, oh, okay, I got this. I mean, I'm a high achiever, so I'm like, okay, I've checked everything off the things you should do when you burn out. So I'm good now. Thanks very much. It was good talking to you, therapist. I'm off now. And it was only then when when Dark Night of the Soul like really came smacking down, I was like, ooh. And that's now like almost 4 years ago, and I'd still say, yeah, I am still like peeling off layers every now and then.
I don't think that ever ends. Like, I think we're just
Mm-mm.
constantly
No,
peeling
I
back
was
those
young
layers,
and
right?
foolish. No, it does not. It always, that's the thing, right? I had this image of healing as like, oh, okay, you get to a destination, then you're done with it, right? So you get a ticket, you fly from A to B, and then you're like, okay, I've healed. Next. And it doesn't really work that way, does it?
Mm-hmm.
And so now I know that at every kind of new level or a new floor I go up to, or just whatever, I'm going around a corner, I'm like, oh, there could be something lurking. And the Dark Night of the Soul, it was really like a combination of, oh man, so many things. So picture this.
Because you had your first Dark Night of the Soul right after college, but then there was a kind of a bigger one later, right?
Yeah, it was a bigger one. Maybe, that was like 7 or 8 years later. That really floored me. So I started my own business in 2017, and it was successful. I've built something. And then I kind of realized, oh, okay, I'm not really like doing that anymore. I was doing digital marketing and like paid ads, and it was fine. But I was like, it's not what I do one full time. And then I knew I wanted to do like to sign up with a mastermind and just be like kind of like have inspiration and ideas. And at the time, I thought, hey, that is a really good idea to do when you have a newborn. So I had my son in 2019, and I was at the same time I was in a year-long mastermind, and it was just everything came kind of like unraveling. Like I had a whole lot of health issues through giving birth that were like that. I was always able-bodied before. I didn't know like how it is if to have like be out of spoons or have good and bad days. Of course, I was tired and shit, but not like and then suddenly there was like a whole thing of like, okay, this is not me. This is not right. Something is off. And of course, having all the doctors tell me, oh, you're just postpartum. That's how it's supposed to feel. Blah, 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 blah. So that's one thread, right? So kind of like the health thread that took more than 2.5 years to kind of like make sense of, and it's still going on. And it was only like after 2 years that I got diagnosed with endometriosis, adenomyosis, which is endometriosis in the uterus, celiac, and IBS. So kind of like a whole range of anti-inflammatory chronic illnesses, which before was like, oh, it's just postpartum. You'll be fine. It's just postpartum. Of course you're tired. Like, sure. Okay. And then it was me being like, oh, okay, here's this newborn. What am I supposed to do with this newborn? I don't know. Suddenly I don't have, I mean, I had my kid when I was 35, so rather late. So my partner and I, we were used to travel, to be like, hey, we're bored this weekend. Let's go to Rome, right? Kind of like that was our lifestyle. And now we're like, we're still doing things, but with baggage attached.
Right.
and,
Like a
and then,
literal appendage.
yeah.
This
And
little
then
kid you
there
have to
was,
take with you.
yes, absolutely. And it was also really that realization of, and I always read like those, before I had a kid, I would always, I don't know, read this, I don't know, cheesy Pinterest quotes of like, oh, you have your heart outside of your body, right? That you need to protect. And I was like, yeah, sure. Okay, I get it. But it was only like when I was walking over, like, we have a bridge where I live, and I was walking over that bridge with my newborn in his pram. And there was a car who was driving super irrationally and came really close to us. That was the first time I realized, oh, holy shit. Like, I do actually have a part of my soul, heart and soul, outside of my body. And that was also really freaking me out. Like, I don't know. There was something. I mean, I am an I don't know. I'm appearing extrovert, but some things I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm what my
Well, I think
therapist.
there's a dichotomy there of like,
Yeah.
I especially right after, I mean, I had really severe postpartum, so I get it, where you're like, I should be acting a certain way, but I do feel that way, but I don't feel that way. But
Yeah.
what is this? And then even
How do
when
I
you
make
do,
sense?
like, how do I make sense of this, and how do I
Mhm.
change my life?
Yeah.
Especially I was a late in life mom too, and that, like, it's a real shift in everything, right? Everything shifts because it's not about you anymore. You spent your whole life being very selfish, right? And it's not about you. I mean, and
Naturally
not in a
so.
bad
Yeah.
way, but you could be, right? Yeah.
And it's still about you, but and it's also not about you, right? Both
Right.
things are true, and that's still something I come to terms with in a lot of different ways, that both things are true. So it was all that. It was postpartum. It was not me not be the first for the first time not being able to trust or rely on my body to perform. And then I was in this mastermind trying to kind of like rebuild my or reshape my business. And it was just such a horrible experience. There's no other way to tell it. Like, there was just, I don't know, a part of was having your business should be modeled into something that it wasn't, that just wasn't to fit me. And part of was like, okay, I'm giving all I can right now, dealing with chronic illness, dealing with postpartum, dealing with whatever. And then being told, oh, you're lazy. And that was like, lazy
Ouch.
was
That's a
is,
horror. I mean,
yeah,
oh, that
I
makes me
know,
want to
I
throw
know.
up, is having a coach say that to you.
Yes.
That's awful.
Yeah, because like there was a launch and it didn't go well, like, and like, oh, then we went through all the things we did, or I did, and she's like, oh, don't you think that's kind of lazy? I'm like, well, thank you for this such for also like framing that question this way. Thank you very much. Well, anyway, so kind of like picture all of this going on, right? And you being on Zoom calls, nursing a baby, crying, all the things. And it was just, okay, you're lazy. So that was one of the really first kind of like, triggers.
Well, you're already exhausted, right? You're already
So
exhausted. Your
exhausted.
body won't work the way you want it to, which is already, and I've suffered with a long-term chronic illness. I'm in remission now, but I spent 15 years not able to walk very well and not able to do, the large majority of what I wanted to do. And that's so defeating, and you already feel like a loser, right? You already
Oh
feel
God, yeah.
different than. You already feel like this can't be normal. You already feel like the decks are, are stacked against you. And then to also be trying to build a business at the same time and not, I'm sure, well, I don't know, but I would imagine that coach was very well meaning and trying to push you out of some sort of comfort zone.
Yes,
But when
I'm
you're
not saying
not,
she was an evil bitch, but
yeah.
that coaching, like from all of our conversations, that coaching method or tool, there was a slim chance of that actually working. And I mean, then there were other instances where she would do it in group calls, for example, not in one-on-ones, right? So like a whole bunch, the whole thing was fucked up. And so it was just really, okay. So I okay, fuck. Then after like the mastermind ended, I was like, okay, so that was a waste. Now let's just figure things out differently, right? Like whatever that wasn't working. Like mirroring or copying or blueprinting, whatever, that's not working. Yes, I can go hard, but at the same time I have to accept my new reality of I cannot go hard all the time. It's just not possible. So I have to find a way how I can make business work, and how much do I want to be present in my life, right? Or do I just want to like hustle right now? Maybe I would have done that in my 20s, but in my 30s I was like, no, there's going to be another fucking way. Like, no.
And what a gift. I mean,
Mhm.
one of the things we talked about on this podcast is what a gift some of these struggles are. And as hard as that was,
Yeah.
it does bring you to that realization of, I don't want this, right? There has to be a different way, right? There
Yeah.
has to be a different way to do
Yeah.
these things. And I've had that happen. I've had coaches where I'm like, I just spent an obscene amount of money and all I learned was that what I don't want. But you know what? Sometimes that's just as valuable as what you do want.
Absolutely. I mean, people ask me before, like, oh, do you think like it was like always like, no, it wasn't. It showed me valuable things. I wished I'd learned those things in a different way, in a kinder way, right? But I mean, I'm also like a stubborn son of a bitch. Like, I mean,
Girlfriend, you're talking to a recovered addict. Like,
yeah, right.
I had to hit like rock bottom, lose the big house, lose the husband, almost lose the kid, lose the whole business, like complete and utter demoralization and shame before I was willing to make any changes in the way I
right.
thought.
I mean,
So,
and then you feel like, oh, okay, you're healing. Okay, it's good, it's fine. And then you're like, so sometimes you just need a couple of bangs on the head, before you're like, oh, okay. And the depths of what we can endure a lot of shitty things, right? So at one point, it was really like, okay, no, business wise, no, okay, there has to be another way. And I was very lucky that I was super burned by coaches, obviously. But I was super lucky to find not like a business coach per se, but like a mindset coach who also dabbles into business. And it was only like through her and through a lot of other different modalities and therapies and whatever to slowly like, oh, okay, let's kind of like refocus again. And it was really, one thing was I didn't really took time because I was always like, go, 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 go. I didn't really pause and reflect on how have my values changed now that I have a business and a newborn and a family. Like, are my values still the same? Yes, some were and some shifted, and I didn't pay attention to that. I was just go, 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 go until I realized I'm fucking miserable. Like,
Yeah, because
no.
your actions don't align with your values anymore, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, because like, and then you're like, oh, why do I have such a hard time doing this? Why is it such a struggle to post on social media every day? Why is it such a struggle to make sales calls? Whatever it is, right? Because there's something that doesn't make sense for you, and it often doesn't, because the driver behind it is empty, maybe, or a shell of something former, or shadow of the past or something. I don't know, right?
Well,
When
I find it tends to be fear, right? Where we've carried these old fears into
yeah,
these new behaviors. And until we really resolve that fear and whatever, trauma created it, which fear is a natural part of life. But, you mentioned
yes,
social media, and that's a lot of what I coach people on is like, people are just scared that they're going to show up on social media and they're going to look like a jerk, or they're going to look dumb, or they're not going to, whatever, or no
yeah,
one's going to listen to it. And they're going to, right. All
yeah.
it bring, there's nothing like making or having your own business to bring out all of your crazy.
Oh
And I
God, oh
think we
God. If
have to go
someone,
through, yeah, we
yeah,
have to go through and do those modalities and do that work
yeah,
in order to really show up in our businesses.
yes, and like you don't know, and the thing is, you don't know which modality will work for you, right? I mean, I was like, journal, do morning pages, and I'm like, I can journal my arm off. This is not doing something for me. I finally ventured into more somatic approaches. I'm like, okay, this is actually feeling good, because my head is always like, so I actually need to be more grounded in my body. But yeah, going back to entrepreneurship, sometimes I feel like I know I would, if I would have like a time turner, I would go back. I would still choose entrepreneurship, because that's really the only, I don't know, through all my corporate days, I was always the misfit. Um, but dear Lord, no one told me that you have to deal with so much baggage and trauma and inner shit that comes up. You're like, whoa. Like first come like the money things, and then like ego and security and safety and
Worthiness, right?
oh,
Am I
of
worthy of
course,
accepting this money? Is
of
anybody going to
course.
like me?
Am I skilled enough? Am I?
Is everyone's just going to see that I'm full of shit? And
Oh,
so I
and then
need
am
to
I
go
just
get another
pretending?
degree.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've been through the should I do a PhD phase? No, you should not. Um, yeah,
Oh, I do that
absolutely.
pretty much weekly. I still do that. That is a character defect. I did it this morning, actually,
Oh,
because I
what
was
do you want to
reading.
do?
Yeah, I don't know, it was some somatic healing thing, which I may
Mm,
still do. Because what you said something interesting earlier, is you don't realize that being an entrepreneur is going to bring up all this stuff, especially if you're the face of your brand, right? Like you are, and your name is
yeah.
on the door. And after doing this coaching, right, I started with marketing coach. All right, let me write you a plan. And once you know the plan, you'll be good. And I've realized people still aren't good. They still can't show
Mm,
up in their
yeah.
businesses. And I've really had to look at, well, what's the work that I had to do it? And then I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
man, when I started really having to show up in my business, it led me into addiction because I went so crazy
Mm,
with it. Right. And so
mm,
being able to now coach on that part, and that's part of this
yeah.
podcast, is let's have these conversations about how we're all scared little kids just going out, walking into the lunchroom on the first day of middle school saying, will
Ah,
somebody please
where can
ask
I
me,
sit, please?
where can I sit,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
And you're in a room by yourself talking to a camera to create a reel. Like it's not
It's
easy.
insane. I mean, let's call it what it is. Like sometimes for some, like it's like what? Um, yeah, it's definitely something else. And like going back to like the feeling of, oh, I need to have another degree, or another certificate or something. I mean, I still do a lot of courses and certificates. I just now signed up to train as an EFT, as a tapping coach, because I love it on myself. But what changed is the way I approach it. I am not like, before I signed up for the mastermind of business courses or whatever with the mental mindset of, okay, this is my golden ticket. This will save me or else. Right? And now I'm like, ooh, and course on like how to become an EFT tapping practitioner. That sounds like fun. I'm curious if like how's that gonna feel? I'm signing up now, right? And also like the decision making has been much shorter. It's just like, oh, this feels exciting. This feels like fun. Let's do this, right? And it released the entire pressure of it. Before, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sign up for the super expensive mastermind. This better save me. This better be it. The golden bullet, right? The one ring to conquer them all. And it's like, mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah, it's the difference of, are you looking for someone else to kind of really do the work for you? Like, give me the process and then I'll follow it and then everything will be fine. And it doesn't quite work like that. You have to do it from a place of joy and a place of alignment and a place of service. And that's where the abundance really comes.
Yes, 100% agree. And you gotta love the journey, right? You gotta be in love with the way you're doing it. I firmly believe if you hate the way you're doing something, you're gonna hate whatever it brings you, because you'll have attached so much shitty feelings about it. It's not gonna be worth it. And like that ties into maybe the number one question I always ask people who work with me or who are new to working with me. They're like, oh, they come to me with like big goals of like, oh, okay, I want to rebrand, or I want to build an online business, or I want to do an online course or whatever. And then I'm always like, okay, that's cool. Like, I'm down with all the goals. Like, if you tell me you want to do $1 million this year, I'm cool. Let's do that. But I'm always kind of like, okay, will you tell yourself when you reach that goal? That is the one thing I want to know, right? And it's always kind of like, and most of the time, when you let your clients talk, you realize, oh, and sometimes they even realize it themselves, that they put themselves into kind of like an if-then scenario, right? So if I have my first 5K month, 25K month, 100K month, whatever, then I'm legit. Then I can show my dad to suck it. I've made it, or whatever, right? Like, it's always kind of like, or I know I'm worthy, or when I lost the 20 pounds, I know I'm beautiful. I know I'm worthy of love. I know whatever. It's like, that's where you gotta dig deep. And that's gonna
Well, you have to know it first. You have to feel that. That's like law of abundance. 101 is you have to feel it first, and then it'll come. Which is like,
yes, which is always right. Like, it seems so counterintuitive at the beginning when you're like new and you're like, no, I don't. And I mean, I have an aversion to not feeling. I mean, if something is not fun, I'm like, I'm out of here. Like, there's no, my hell freeze over. Like, no. So the hard part as well was, like, through the dark night of the soul, was to essentially allow myself to feel everything deeply. And I am someone who feels very deeply, and I sometimes really have to kind of like put my shutters on, because I don't know, the world is a shit show and it cannot take everything in all the time. But then I really had to open all the gates, and it was terrifying. Just the first moments, the first time you let yourself fully in full mindfulness, when you open your floodgates for the first time very consciously, And you don't know what is going to come up. You don't know how long it's going to last or how bad it's going to be. I was terrified because there were a lot of things I just kept brushing under the carpet because, hey, it's under the carpet. No one sees it. And it's like, no, it's still there. And in the darkness, it festers. And that was hard. That was really hard to really feel, letting myself feel deeply again. That was hard. And it's still, in some areas, it's lighter, it's easier, and in some it's still hard. Which is
because if you
what
don't
it is.
allow yourself to feel the bad things, you won't know when you're feeling the good things, and you won't know what feels fun. And
Yes.
fun and love is the path of least resistance, right? And so
Yes.
if we don't allow ourselves to feel fun and
Yes.
joy, then we don't know what the path of least resistance is. But we tend to, when we go through, whatever, some sort of trauma, we stop allowing ourselves to feel because we're protecting ourselves.
Of
But by
course.
doing that,
Absolutely.
we turn off all our intuition and we never know which way to go,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So that is really the first time you have to start trusting yourself again. And that is one way of doing it, right? And I mean, back in the day when someone would ask me, okay, I mean, follow your joy, right? Follow your bliss, whatever those like Pinterest quotes are. If someone would have asked me, oh, okay, do whatever feels fun to you, my answer would have been, I don't know. I don't know what feels fun to me. I don't know. Right? And then like the lesser good advice is to, well, just, I don't know, try fun things. But what actually is helping, as you said before, and it sounds counterintuitive, you just have to sit with all your shitty and messy feelings for a while and train yourself again to feel, because then you'll also open the door to like, oh, this actually feels fun. This feels light. This feels, or just this feels different. Let's start with different, right? Maybe not good or bad or happy. Maybe you're not there yet, but different. Just go for different.
Or just something. Let me feel something.
God, something at all. Yes. Just something just fucking something at all. Absolutely. And then maybe like, oh, this feels different. And be curious about it. Oh, why does it feel different? Like, what did I do differently? Maybe it's not the task, maybe it's how I approach the task, or who knows?
Or some limiting a belief on how to do this task that actually doesn't serve me, right? It's getting like following the rabbit trail, right? And saying what's going on with me right now, right?
Yes.
As opposed to saying, oh, I'm feeling something, okay, I gotta go, right? And seizing up or, doing the fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Is say, that's interesting. Get curious about it. What's really going
Yes.
on here? And then, working through whatever that is, then that allows you to say, okay, this is, I choose to agree with this or I choose to not, right?
Absolutely. Curiosity is the key. And also, there is a difference when something is coming up. It's a difference between, oh, I'm ignoring it and brushing it back under the carpet, or something is coming up, I pause, I recognize what's coming up, and then make a conscious decision of, okay, right now, I don't feel equipped to deal with this. So maybe I need to talk to my best friend first, or maybe I have to let this come up in a safe space with a therapist or my partner, whatever, right? It doesn't, it's not a competition of who heals the most trauma the fastest, whatever, but right, sometimes it feels this way, right? Like, and it's like, just no. And I mean, I am a competitive person, but no, this is not it.
We are not going to compete on how much we've solved our trauma.
No,
so if you were to meet someone who was in the midst of their dark night of the soul, what would you say? What advice would you give?
I'd say first, I would really want you to know that you're not alone, right? This happens to, I'd say, everyone at one or several points in their lives. And it's okay. It doesn't mean anything about you. It's just what happens, right? And although it may feel like this is endless and like going on forever, like there will be like a dawn. The light will come up again after the dark. Like that's a given. And I'd say really take it slow. Slow and steady wins the race for sure. And the keys you hold yourself. It's what you know, your intuition, your curiosity, your strength, your resilience. You have everything you need to emerge back.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here today, sharing your story, sharing your words of wisdom. I loved having this conversation with you, and I hope that this sparks anyone listening to have more of these conversations. And think about gosh, like if you're having this dark night of the soul, let's turn it to say, how can I find my way through this and find a way to be of service to other people?
Yes, absolutely. Or if you see, if you have a friend and suddenly you feel like she always used to laugh at this and now she doesn't, and you recognize the small little changes, maybe it's a right call to ask her how she's doing, how she's holding up. Maybe she's going through a dark night of the soul.
Yeah. Good homework for everyone here. Think of your friends. If there's someone who seems a little off, send them a little note. Just checking on you. Wanted you to know I love you.
Yeah. Ghost hug.
Yep. I love that. Jennifer, if we want to get in touch with you, how do we find you?
Well, everyone is more than welcome to stalk my Instagram. As you did, Sherry. No, well, I mean, my virtual hub is jenniferwalter.me. I mostly hang out on Instagram or TikTok, so this is where you'll find me sharing branding tips, mindset advice, funny memes, and everything in between.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for being here and for sharing your baggage.
Thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you for listening to Bosses with Baggage. We are honored that you chose to spend your precious time with us. I hope that you are feeling inspired to reframe your setbacks into your superpowers so that you can change not only your life, but the life of everyone around you. If you enjoyed today's podcast, and I sure hope you did, please subscribe, rate, and share on your favorite podcast listener. And if you have any ideas for a future guest, or you need some help growing your business, I'd love to connect with you. You can find me directly on my website, which is sherrysutton.com, SherrySutton.com. We'll see you next time.